What's going on YouTube? Logan Prater here, back for another video. This video is going to be kind of a fun one. I'm going to be hopping on the little metal tag trend. It's kind of a bit overdue, but I've seen everybody else doing it, and it seems like it would be a really fun thing to do. So yeah, it's 20 questions, and yeah, let's just get into it. I've got all of them written down right here. I'll leave all the questions in the description if you yourself want to participate. So, question number one: music spoiled by vocals. And this one, it was kind of hard, but I was looking through my collection, and definitely this band, while I love this band's early stuff, the newer stuff is just completely ruined by the vocals, and that's In Flames with their Battles album. This is the most recent one of theirs I have. Good music. I mean, it's of course it's not the same In Flames as it was 15, 20 years ago, but the music's still good enough. But oh my gosh, Anders Frieden sounds like a whiny fucking little bitch on this album, and he has for their last four or so albums. I could have picked any of their last four for this one, but oh my gosh. I mean, for example, this isn't their newest one, but on their newest one, there's a couple tracks that sound like some, older sounding In Flames, but the vocals just kill it for me, man. Like, oh, it's so bad. But yeah, In Flames, the newer In Flames for me, kills it. Number two, an album you love let down by bad production. And there were a couple of albums that came to mind in the collection, and but none of the productions on the albums really ruined it for me as much as they did for this album. And that's Kiss Unmasked. So this was the follow up to Dynasty, and both albums were produced by Vinnie Poncia. And I feel like, especially on this album, of course, Dynasty's great, but on this album the songs are also there, but the production is so poppy and it's not guitar driven whatsoever, which is what these tracks need, that it just kills the album for me. I mean, like I said, the tracks are there. Is That You, Talk to Me, Naked City, She's So European, Easy as It Seems. I mean, the good songs, just bad production. If there is one Kiss album that I would want them to re-record or remix or whatever, remaster, it would be this one. Not that that's ever going to happen, because I don't think it's in that big a demand, but I would really like to see this album re-recorded with a more kind of grittier rock sounding, metal sounding production. But yeah, Kiss Unmasked for the second question. Question number three: a band that suffers from a weak member. And this one immediately came to mind as soon as I thought of this, and that is Dream Theater. And the more recent Dream Theater stuff with James LaBrie, I mean, good God, he cannot sing anymore. This is the most recent Dream Theater I have, Systematic Chaos. I mean, he's not really that bad at this point, but I mean, everything really in the last 10 or so years is just, oh my gosh, his voice, especially live, it just kills it for me. Again, like In Flames. He, uh, I mean, I've always thought he's probably the weakest member of the band as far as talent. But it's just really gotten bad. Of course, the live albums more recently don't reflect that, but of course they doctor that up in the studio. But yeah, James LaBrie from Dream Theater, it just weakest member of this band, and it suffers from it, or Dream Theater suffers from it. So, question number four: an album that defines heavy. And I was looking through my collection, and this one um, just screamed to me, just heavy as fuck. And that is Carnifex with their 2014 album Die Without Hope. I mean, I know it's deathcore and everything, but I mean, this album is so fucking heavy. Just the breakdowns and the vocals and just the chugs, it's all fucking just, oh, it's crushing, man. And of course, they add that little black metal flair in there too to their music, which is always good. But yeah, this album is heavy as fuck, and I would definitely recommend it if you want some fucking heavy ass shit. So yeah, Carnifex, Die Without Hope, heavy as shit. Question number five: an album recommended by the music community, and this one I showed in my last video, so I won't go into it too much. but that's Gutted with Bleed for Us to Live. I about said Die for Us to Live, but Bleed for Us to Live. So yeah, Brian Arkham recommended this to me, and yeah, I've been hooked ever since. So yeah, I talked about it in my last video, so a little more in depth. So yeah, go watch that video. Gutted with Bleed for Us to Live. Yeah, great fucking album. Question number 6. An album that takes your musical taste in a different direction. And so I decided to go with. Now I could have chosen a few other albums, and but I was like, I could have went with like Depeche Mode, but that would have been, a little too obvious. I decided to go with something. It's a local band, and it's something that really I don't really listen to anything else from this type of genre. But yeah, this album and this band is really good. I've seen them a bunch of times, and they're really fun. And that is the Fumble Buckers with what is this one called? Hungover and Laying Around. So this one is like bluegrass. It's kind of like almost comedic bluegrass because they really don't take themselves seriously, but they're a lot of fun. I've seen them live at least 5 or 6 times, and yeah, they're super cool guys. A lot of fun to see live, and I want to say that they uh, uh, classify themselves as like beer drinking, string breaking, psychedelic bluegrass, and yeah, I would say that's a pretty accurate description of what these guys are. Um, yeah, I got it signed by all the members of the band. But yeah, Fumble Buckers. Yeah, some good ass fucking bluegrass type shit, but it's really the lyrics are hilarious, and yeah, I would recommend checking it out if you can find it anywhere. Yeah, Fumble Buckers. Oh, and I forgot to mention they're kind of local to me. They're from Cookeville, Tennessee, so like sort of getting into the middle part of the state. But they always play over in Oak Ridge, the next town over from me at the bar over there, and go see them every time they play. Of course, not during COVID, but yeah, Fumble Buckers. Moving on to question number 7, a gem from my collection, and yeah, this one is one of my favorite items in my collection. It's not that this is the most rare album, but it's the meaning of this album for me. I mean, this is just the coolest thing in my collection, I feel like, and that is Bruce Kulick with BK3. Now, this is not a rare album. You can find this, I would say, pretty easily. But the coolest thing is that it's signed by Bruce Kulick, of course. Bruce Kulick of Kiss, one of my favorite eras. He played in Kiss, or he played in Kiss during one of my favorite eras of the band, and it's signed. And a buddy of mine went to some sort of convention in Knoxville where I live, and he was there, and he bought this album and got him to sign it, and he put To Logan, Bruce Kulick on it. So yeah, this one's pretty personal. I mean, just anything signed from a Kiss member, it to me is just, it's like, oh, just hold it up above anything in my collection. But yeah, this fucking shit's awesome. Just the whole, yeah, got a fucking item signed by a Kiss member. That's a gem in my collection to me. So yeah, moving on, we're going to go to question number 8. A band that formed closest to where you live. So the obvious choice, I got 2 albums for this one. I'm kind of breaking the rules, but it's my list, so fuck you. So I've got 2 albums to show. The obvious one is of the deathcore band Whitechapel, and this is their most recent album. I've chatted with these guys a couple times, seen them twice. They always do like a Christmas show in Knoxville to benefit like an animal shelter or like a children's Christmas or whatever. Like. But anyways, yeah, they always do these Christmas shows, and I think that's really cool. And I always try to go to them and donate something. But yeah, just a really good band that really gives back to the community around here. Yeah, Whitechapel. Uh, yeah, fucking awesome. And this is their most recent album, The Valley, by the way. Great concept album. Check it out. And the other band that is also from Knoxville that I want to highlight is a death metal band. Uh, called Engulfed in Blackness. And this is their album Unspeakable Torment. This one came out in 20 I don't know, 2018. They're actually disbanded now. But all the members are actually in other bands now, like Apocryphatic that I talked about in my year-end list, and Uberserker as well. They have members from this band, and yeah, I mean it's not like the greatest death metal you'll ever hear, but I would say it's pretty solid and worth checking out. They got a female vocalist, and I saw them live right before they broke up, and they fucking ruled. But yeah, Engulfed in Blackness, a cool, not a lot. Well, it's a cool local death metal band. Not that there's a lot of death metal around here, but you know the ones that are death metal bands, yeah, they're pretty fucking cool, and these guys are no exception. So yeah, check them out. Engulfed in Blackness. All right. Moving on to question number 9. A metal album you reach for melody wise. And this one immediately came to mind. I've already talked about this one as well in a recent video, and that is Blind Guardian. Not just this album, Somewhere Far Beyond, but any Blind Guardian album. You know, if I want some melody and some sing along shit, I'm gonna fucking grab Blind Guardian or just power metal in general. But more specifically, Blind Guardian. Yeah, I mean, just an awesome album from a killer band that's got just a ton of melody in it, and yeah, what else can be said? It's fucking Blind Guardian. Check it out. So, question number 10: an album you would sell first in your collection. Um, this one was a no-brainer. I actually have quite a few albums that I would be worth selling, but I really don't want to sell anything in my collection because you know it's all. Each album that is in my collection is from a period of time where I definitely was into the music, and yeah, this was no different. I will admit I liked this album at one point. Don't anymore. I think it's complete garbage. And I showed this recently. Um, I can't remember where exactly I showed it, but I know I've shown this before. It might not have been on my channel or something, but I know I've shown this before. Uh, Five Finger Death Punch with The Wrong Side of Heaven and The Righteous Side of Hell, Volume 1. So I guess there was 2 parts to this. I mainly bought this because the first track, uh, Lift Me Up, it had Rob Halford in it, and I really was into Judas Priest at the time as well. So yeah, that song is if Rob Halford sang the whole thing, it would probably be much better. But his verse kicks fucking ass. Still, I popped this in the other day just to see if it was still as bad as I remember, and yeah, it's pretty fucking terrible. This whole album. They got a cover of "Mama Said Knock You Out" on here. Yeah, it's just it's garbage. It's complete garbage, and I would sell this in a heartbeat. But like I said, I mean, this represented a period in time of my musical taste, and you know, for that reason, I'll hold on to it. Just you know, for that reason. But yeah, I would definitely sell this in a heartbeat if I didn't have that way of thinking. Five Finger Death Punch. So, a subgenre of metal I would delete from history. Um, I could have gone with Five Finger Death Punch. You know, the type of music they play, kind of that new metal, groove metal kind of style. That would be the obvious choice. But the genre of metal I would delete, and I don't have anything from this genre, would be slam. Um, I just think that genre is so fucking oversaturated with bands that all sound the same. There's nothing about slam nowadays that sticks out to me. Like, you know, there were some of the early bands that had those groovy parts, you know, Dying Fetus, for example. They've got slammy parts, but I feel like they kind of stand out because they also have those techie parts too, and they can write good songs. I feel like slam bands now rely on that groovy slam part to be the part of their song that's good. The rest of the song is just kind of thrown together. But yeah, they all sound the same. Nothing's creative about that genre anymore. I don't think there's really much creative about the genre to begin with. We already had those groovy parts in death metal. Suffocation gave them to us. Dying Fetus gave them to us. Devourment, what have you. They all have those little slow, slammy parts, if you will. We don't need a whole genre of just that part of a song as a whole song. Anyway, but yeah, enough about that. Slam would be the genre I would just completely wipe off the face of the planet. Um, so, moving on, number 12, a band you would like to see put an album out this year. And I've got two bands, and they're kind of obvious kind of cookie cutter choices. And that's Iron Maiden. I would, their album's finished. I think they're just waiting on COVID or whatever. I don't know what exactly they're waiting on, but I'm pretty sure their album's finished. And I would love to see a follow up to the Book of Souls. I want to know what it sounds like because I thought the Book of Souls was probably the best thing they've done since the comeback album with Bruce, A Brave New World. Yeah, I'm really curious to see what Iron Maiden's next album sounds like if they can build off of this and make it even better because I feel like they're going in the right direction. But yeah, Iron Maiden, and the other band would be Creator. Because I thought this album, Gods of Violence from 2017, was, and this might be controversial opinion. I thought it was the best thing they ever put out. I'm a fan. I love thrash, and I also love kind of that melodic death metal sound. And this album really kind of melds those two styles of metal together perfectly. I feel like. Yeah, just this album's fucking awesome. I mean, World War Now, Satan is Real, the title track, um, Fallen Brother, all good stuff. Hail to the Horde. I mean, this whole album's good from start to finish. And if you're writing it off because it's newer creator or whatever, or just a newer album from a classic band, um, don't do that because this album is, like I said, I think it's the best thing they've ever done. Yeah, really curious to see what the follow up to this album is, and I would love to see it come out this year. So yeah, Creator. Moving on, next question, number 13. An 80s metal act you would love to see make a comeback album or just make a comeback or whatever. And this one was kind of hard because a lot of the 80s bands that I really enjoy are actually still going. So, it wouldn't be a comeback per se if they were to put out a new album. Kind of like, Creator and Iron Maiden, you know. But this band is actually, they've been putting out albums consistently now for, really since the beginning of their career. They've not stopped. But the original lineup of this band quit making albums together 25 years ago. And I would love to hear, especially hearing what, you know, I would just love to hear what, if this band got back together, what they would sound like. And that band would be Sepultura. I mean, of course, the original album ended with Roots, and that's not that great of an album. Their newer stuff has been pretty good. Um, and I think the Soulfly material with Max has become, I can stomach it better than the early Soulfly stuff. I feel like he's added a little more thrash and a little more death metal back into the sound. And of course, the Cavalera Conspiracy is killer too with Max and Igor. So if Max and Igor got back in the band and the original lineup, or would that be the original lineup? The classic lineup of Sepultura got back together and made an album, I would just love to hear what it sounds like. And so yeah, that's the band I would want to see reunite and make a comeback album. Would be Sepultura, the classic Sepultura lineup. I know Sepultura has been putting out albums. They just put out one in 2019. So Sepultura is still making albums, but not the original lineup. I want an original lineup Sepultura album. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but we can always dream, right? Let's see. Number 14, show an alternate album art in your collection. And this one, I think it's really the only. Well, I mean, that Dream Theater has the sleeve on it of Systematic Chaos with the light, the street light. But that's really not an alternate art because the original art's on the inside when you take the case off or the cover or whatever. But this was the only one that I could think of in my collection. This one immediately came to mind, and I'm sure somebody's already shown this. But Tomb of the Mutilated from Cannibal Corpse. Of course, I want to at some point get the original artwork, but for now I wanted the music, so this one had to do. But yeah, I still think it's a pretty cool album cover for what it is. Of course, the original's better because it's gory and perverted and whatever. But yeah, the alternate album cover. I'm sure somebody's shown this already, like I said, but it's the only one I could find, the only one I could think of that I have in my collection. So yeah, moving on, a band that defines metal, and I mean I had to go with this. I mean Judas Priest. I mean, and especially this album, Screaming for Vengeance. I mean this one, in my opinion, is everything that heavy metal is all about is in this album. I mean, especially, I mean, just go and listen to. I'm sure you've heard it, but the Hellion into Electric Eye is probably the most metal moment in all of metal, in my opinion. And yeah, just yeah. What else can be said? Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance. Yeah, fuck yeah, it's fucking amazing. I don't have to say anything else about it. Um, Number 16, show your most metallic album cover, and uh, this one immediately came to mind in my collection, and it is Amon Amarth with their Yums Viking album, and I mean, just look at that. It's a Viking with an axe, and he's just killed a bunch of dudes, and he's like on a shore with the crashing waves, and I even think there's a Viking ship in the background. There's Viking ships and eagles and Vikings, and it's just admire that for a second. I don't think I have to say anything else. That's metal as fuck. But yeah, Amon Amarth with Yums Viking, most metallic album art I think of all time. Number 17, an album you disliked but now hold in high regard. And I will say, I have actually talked down upon this era of this band in one of my videos back a month or two ago, as a matter of fact. And Rick over at the Dreadful Minutes sent me a package recently, which I will be making a video on, along with the package that Brian Arkham sent me. That'll probably be the next video. But Rick sent me a package, and it had this album in it. And I must say, this album, I completely disregarded it. The first time I heard it, I heard the singles and was like, okay, whatever. This era of the band, this was kind of what I had attributed to be the first album where it really drops off in quality for this band. But Rick sent me this album and I put it in, and I was very pleasantly surprised on how much I actually liked this album now. And that one is Here in the Now Frontier from Queensryche. Yeah, is it a little bit more grungy sounding than anything else they'd put out before it? Sure. But does it still have that Queensryche kind of spin on it? Yes. And I really think they still kind of had some magic going on with this one. It's the last one with Chris DeGarmo. Now, after he left, I still feel very firm in saying the quality just completely dropped off with the songwriting. But this album's still really good. This album's still really good, and upon rediscovering it through Rick, I can say that I do hold this album in high regard now, and I would still say this is classic sounding Queensryche to me. Of course, it's more stripped down and more mellow sounding than their previous albums, I think some review I read on the Metal Archives called this like lounge metal, and I would say that's a pretty accurate description. But yeah, Hearing the Now Frontier from Queensryche, I would check it out again if you kind of write it off as just being some '90s grunge. It's a really not just solid; it's a really good album, and one that I'm so glad that I rediscovered from this band. Yeah, Queensryche. Um, Number 18, an album you liked but now disregard. So the inverse of the previous question. And this is another album that I could probably put there with like the Five Finger Death Punch as being one that I would probably sell. But this one I actually is very important in the development of my musical taste. Unlike maybe the Five Finger, I was already kind of into this style of music when I heard the Five Finger. So this one was a little bit more important in developing my musical taste into the heavier stuff. And that one is The Sickness from Disturbed. Of course, when I was in late elementary school, early middle school, I thought this was the most ferocious and heaviest, just most awesome album I had ever heard, most aggressive shit. Of course, it's still very aggressive and very angsty sounding, but it's so cringy now to listen to it. It's like, oh, it's new metal nonsense. And I mean, yeah. And of course, that album cover is just something. I mean, what is it? That's the singer coming out of a womb or something, isn't it? I mean, ugh. But yeah. I mean, this album, this used to be probably one of my favorite albums to put on, and now I completely cannot stand it. But still not going to get rid of it because sometimes it's still fun to put this one on and be like, man, I was actually into this kind of stuff, but and I'm not ashamed of it, but it's kind of amazing to think how far I've come from listening to this kind of stuff. But yeah, Disturb the Sickness. Um, okay, a metal band that deserves more recognition. Now, this band is on a major label, and they have quite a following. But I just think that since that's the case, I feel like a lot of people, maybe in the underground, maybe in this metal community, might write this band off because they do kind of have that new metal kind of sound. They have that kind of guitar tone, but but it's not. They're not just that. They have that side of the chugging kind of sound, but there's a completely different side of this band that I feel like this band is one of the most unique bands I've ever heard, and that band is Avatar. And this is their Feathers and Flesh album from 2016. This was my favorite album from that year, and still one of my favorite albums to put on. Easily their best. This album combines like melodic death metal, folk metal, some alternative metal. Um, Not as much new metal on this one though. But yeah, folk, melodic death. Um, uh, what else did I say? Fucking alternative metal. Even some power metal on this. Um, I mean, yeah, there's all sorts of stuff on this one, and this one is their concept album. Um, and yeah, it's this is such a good album. It's such a unique sounding album. I mean, for example, you have the first song, Regret, which is the intro into House of Eternal Hunt, which that one's almost like a power metal, melodic death metal kind of sounding song. Then into like The Eagle Has Landed, which is like more just melodic kind of radio friendly kind of sounding song. But then track 4, New Land, is like uh, um, it's more folky kind of sounding. And then track 5, Toothpick and Claw, is like if the Beach Boys played heavy metal. So yeah, and then there's some ballads on here too. There's some death metal stuff on here, some folk metal, power metal stuff on here as well. And yeah, I mean, just such a unique album and one that I would definitely recommend checking out. I mean, there's some great guitar work on here, some tasty licks, I would say. Um, yeah, check it out. Avatar, Feathers and Flesh. Yeah, check it out, man. It's fucking killer. And finally, question number 20. Uh, your number one grail going into 2021, and it's an album that I really just want to have, but it's unless it gets reissued, I just really don't feel like I'm ever going to get this like an OG or of this album period, and it would be Satyricon, not this album, but it'd be the first two, Dark Medieval Times and The Shadow Throne. I would love to have those on vinyl, um, and just love to have a copy of them. Period. I know you can still get like CD copies. I don't know if it would be fairly easy. But I know the vinyl's like impossible to get, and could really use a reissue. But so yeah, that would be the one thing that I would love to get going into this year, and who knows, maybe we'll get a reissue. But yeah, that's my metal tag video. Like I said, I'll drop the questions down in the description, and I really had a lot of fun making this list. And yeah, I've had a lot of fun watching all the metal tag videos as well. Everybody's got some awesome picks, and so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed mine, and stay safe and keep it metal. And thanks for watching, guys.